All right, what's up, y'all? Welcome to the team agency call. I'm excited to have our special guests on here. I've got Mr. Josh Lockhart, VP of FFL Gloves Off, and one of our newest top producers, Austin Harris. How are we doing, guys?
Doing awesome, Jamie. Thanks.
Doing
Thanks for
good.
Good. Well, hey guys, as a lot of y'all know, I've kind of shared with a few of you. My whole household is dealing with the flu like crazy, and I'm getting my butt kicked today, but I'm here working. I'm gonna hand it over to Josh. I'm gonna let Josh take it from here. Just wanted to give y'all some announcements, but I appreciate y'all, and I'll see most of y'all in Dallas.
Awesome. Awesome. Appreciate that, Jamie. And hey, for everybody that's on right now, congratulations. Because I mean, everything kind of starts with showing up, and whether it be an event or a call like this or whatever the deal is, it's no secret that the people that show up and continue to show up go on to have success. Some people move faster than others, and that's okay. But at the end of the day, it's not a sprint, it is a marathon. And as long as you cross the finish line, at some point, that's really the main thing. And that's one thing that I love about Austin so much. We're going to talk today is he's pretty new to insurance, certainly to FFL. And Justin, how Austin, how long has it been? How long have you been in FFL now? I know it's only been a few months.
Yeah, my first full month was in September. I started at like the very end of August, I remember was my first dialing session and really
Okay.
hit my first sale beginning of September.
Okay, September, October, November, December. Yeah, so just a handful of months. And one of the things that I right away noticed about you is you just show up, right? Like at first you're like this quiet guy, no one really talked to, but I'm like, I see him on dials every day. And then, I talked to you and it was like you were always doing something. And so I know a lot of times it's like, hey, I wanna get more coaching. I want to learn more about this. I want to learn more about that. But like it was so easy to help you, and it always is because you're always on, you're always doing something, whether you're getting a lot of results or little results, like you're always in action. So every time we talk, it's about a new challenge, a new thing, a new like I need to figure this thing out. And it's like really easy just to like, okay, let's go handle that and then just get on to the next thing. So really just a compliment to you. So I appreciate that about you.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I was staying on it every day because I realized I'm sitting on the Zoom just learning how to sell insurance, and then I hear someone like you go on unmute yourself and just sell a policy like that. And that's the best way to really learn is when you actually get to soak in, someone that's been in the game selling policies left and right. That's the best way to learn. So the more you stay on the Zoom, the more you'll learn, the more you'll sell. And it's a pretty simple formula.
Yeah, absolutely. So before we kind of come up to speed on what we're doing now, just a real quick, like what were you doing before FFL? What got you interested in FFL? And then we'll talk just for like 2 minutes on like your initial experience.
Yeah, so I started FFL, like I said, early September. I knew about it for about a year. My brother actually, he's met you before. He knew Justin Peterson, who signed me on. He's good friends with him, and basically, he was trying to sell me on FFL for a while. Like, hey, you should get into the insurance game. It's like he's not personally in it, but he knows a few people that are, and it's a great business to be in. And over a year ago, I was like, that sounds great. But at the time, I was actually interviewing for sales jobs, trying to get my foot in the door for sales. And I actually took on a entry level sales job at a corporation, a cybersecurity company, and I was just dialing every day, 100 dials a day. Pretty brutal stuff, calling IT guys that. It's a rough business, but I appreciated that experience I had because it got me comfortable on the phones. I was never, really comfortable on the phones before. My previous jobs had nothing to do with being on the phone or even really talking to people. They were just more computer jobs. And yeah, when I decided that wasn't the route I wanted to take, I just remembered my conversation with my brother about it, and I reached back out. I talked to Justin Peterson, which led me to you guys, and it was definitely a great decision to get in here because it's been a blast, and yeah, I'm only just getting started. It's a few months in. I'm still rolling.
Exactly, exactly. Now, thinking back to your first week, like I do remember though, like you did make a sale or two or three your very first week, didn't you?
Yeah, yeah, it
What?
was. like I said, back to, being appreciative of my experience cold calling for my last job. I wasn't nervous on the phone. I think that's probably the hardest, obstacle you got to get across when you first start is you're going to be dialing people. But the cool thing is these people filled out forms. They're actively looking for something. You're not just reaching out to them out of the blue, trying to, sell them something that they never even heard of. They're actually looking for this insurance. They're looking for final expense or mortgage protection. And really, you're just there to help them out. So keeping that mentality just helped me realize that it's not, you're not selling hard. You're trying to help people. And that's what led to a few early sales.
For sure. Now, when you first started, now I remember, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was your second full week, you had a 10 plus family week. Is that, yeah, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
What
Just
were
about.
you, what were you calling then? Do you know
Um,
what leads you were calling?
So I started with the ILC about I think 2-month-old leads. And I had a couple in there. On top of that, I was just actively trying to figure out best ways um, you know, to manage leads and what good resources are out there. And I came across live transfers. And, being brand new to it, I don't know if I should have just been diving right into live transfers, but it was because it was kind of the Wild West. You don't know who you're gonna about to talk to, but yeah, I did live transfers and I got a few really good sales out of that. And it was pretty fun. They're a little crazy though. Quentin's the master at that, not me,
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you get them on the phone and you got a live one. You don't know what's going to happen.
for sure.
All right. And then so prior to this past couple of weeks, what was your biggest week that you had like for submitting sales? Like,
Submitting
yeah.
probably around 10K. I had that,
Wow.
10K week and then I had another 10K week, but um, I haven't really had too many big weeks, just consistent, medium, okay, weeks, and it adds up. But I haven't really had any monster weeks before.
Okay, for sure, for sure. And then I guess again, prior to the last couple weeks, what has been I mean, you've been on pretty much every day, but what's been kind of your schedule up until recently?
Well, really, I mean, the schedule's just you want to get on as early as possible. And for me, I'm up around 6 a.m. I go on jogs with my dog. I go work out. I just make sure that I start my day off right. Just taking little wins in, like going jog, eating good breakfast. So I'm just prepared for the day and I get on as early as I can. I try to be on no later than 9, probably around 8:30 or so, and just really just hit the phones immediately because the earlier you start your day and the more you dial, you're going to end up with some good wins. Sometimes you end up with a 9:30 a.m. win, and that's a great way to start the day. And that's usually my best weeks is when you start early and you just keep piling them up.
Yeah, yeah, it's the momentum thing, right? Like the pendulum swings both ways, right? Like
Yeah,
when it's good, like what's the saying? The best time to make a sale is right after you made one already, something
for
like that.
sure. Yeah.
Okay. And then so like it's been going okay, for a new person. I mean, I think anybody outside looking in is like, hey, Austin is doing great, or doing good for a
Yeah.
new person or whatever things like to say. But in the last 2 weeks, 2 weeks in a row, you've submitted over 20 families both weeks.
Yep.
I think what was the number January to date so far that you submitted?
Yeah, pushing over 40 submitted, not issued paid yet, but submitted, which is yeah, way more than I've done so far, that's for sure.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Jamie was asking me, so yeah, not this past week before had like a 32 family week myself. So
Mhm.
we're getting in the bigger numbers. That's where we want to be. That's where we're going to live, right?
Yeah.
So let's dive into that. I don't want to put words in your mouth, I guess. What are a couple main differences between before and now? I think it's pretty simple of what you're going to say, but what would you
Yeah.
say it is?
Well, first to start off, for the past few months before getting into Lead Champ Pro, I was just pretty much hand dialing. I was using mortgage protection, clever closer leads, just pretty much getting a list of leads, reaching out to them via cell phone, calling them because I like the personal touch to it. You could use phone burn, which is still great, dialer, but that's just what I was operating on and texting them individually. And I was booking a lot of appointments doing so, or what I thought was a lot of appointments, but it was just, a few there, maybe 4 or 5 set for a day, maybe a few the next day, and maybe nothing the day after that. But uh, pretty much that's how I was rolling and doing things with the appointments. And it was going well, but there's a lot of factors involved when you're closing people, or even when you're following up. You have to text people to, follow up. If they have to reschedule, you have to, keep in mind that you have to keep following up. And the hardest part for me was probably doing that by hand. I'm not a super forgettable person, but I may forget a hit or two to remind someone about a message, and that could really hinder the sale, especially if it's a follow-up. So I wanted to get into Zepo and learn the automation tools. And that's when I reached out to you because I was trying to get A2P approved. And it was just a complete hassle. We were trying to figure out what the heck was wrong. And at that point, after weeks of not getting approved, I just basically begged you if I could just be your guinea pig for Lead Champ Pro. Like, hey, I know it's not open yet, but if you want a guinea pig, I'm happy to, test it out for you. And yeah, fortunately, as soon as I got my hands on Lead Champ Pro, the automated texting, the automated messaging, the whole campaign and every setup just completely saved me.
Yeah.
You import a bunch of leads, and I'm not even joking, within a minute or two, you already have a few that are booked without you even doing anything. It just automatically, you book a few appointments, right?
It, and this is where, like, I don't know, I feel some kind of way about it because of, like, I certainly don't want to make this into a commercial for it, but um me and Jamie talked a lot, like when we first started almost 3 years ago right now, like to book. And there was days I met my best day, I booked 21 appointments, but I dialed the phone 1,000 times, and I did it, and I got the appointments. You know what I mean? But there's been days, as you've seen the last couple of weeks, where we've booked 20 appointments. I mean, at this point, right, between the three of us, I mean, we're booking more, but like you've seen, dump some leads in, and certainly we've booked, a handful of appointments within a couple minutes,
Yeah.
a dozen appointments before noontime. And so, that just, again, it just makes you go from like a mindset of I need to spend a bunch of time trying to figure out how to get the appointments to like, let me spend time talking to people, which is what we actually do. So,
Yeah, and that's my
um,
favorite part, is talking to people.
yeah, yeah,
Right. And my problem just was, maybe I just wasn't having enough appointments. Like, I could talk to maybe, you know, 6 people a week, maybe 7 people a week, and I might close one or two of them. So I really just needed more appointments.
I
And
mean,
that's
well, would you agree with this? I think it's pretty simple, but it's like this whole concept of like speed to lead. It's like you get a pack of leads, okay, and then how fast can you dial through them to get the appointments?
mhm.
And if you're one call, one closing, same concept. You get somebody on the phone, but if you're on the phone with somebody and you sold them, congratulations, but you just lost an hour or two of time. You could have been contacting more people. So this back and forth is always happening to try to get through the batch, get to the ones that you're going to get to. Let's say you're setting appointments, some no show, then you sell it. Maybe it goes to underwriting. You have to wait for a few days. Maybe it got post dated, and then you're waiting for that commission so you can get the commission only to buy more leads and repeat the process. And it's not like oh man, I just, I need more money for leads. It's like I need that to happen faster. And if I can make that happen faster, then we can, that's really all it is.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
that's all it is. That just described my life though for the past few months of reaching out to people. If I get a hold of them, great, I have a conversation, but I just not necessarily wasted, but if I didn't make the sale, potentially just wasted 40 minutes of dialing time. And it's a numbers game at the end of the day. Everyone has their own way of selling insurance, but I think the more appointments that you can get as efficiently as possible, the more success you'll see. And I'm just speaking to my experience the past couple of weeks, and I've seen the results. So
Yeah.
it's really worked.
So, and you kind of said that, but like what per day, per week, what was your average? How many appointments you had before? And then the last 2 weeks, how many appointments you have? And then we'll kind of dive into the numbers a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, before I was probably averaging, it's hard to say, it did vary a lot, but anywhere from, maybe 10 to 15 appointments a week it really wasn't that much. I was buying more high intent leads though. So obviously it's a little more different. My show rate was a little higher. I was able to talk to a lot of those. Um, but even, being decent at selling insurance or not being decent, I feel like I'm somewhere in the middle, and it's just the more people that I can talk to, the more that I'll sell. Because I just think of it as a numbers game. The more people I can talk to, the more I'll sell. And the past 2 weeks, I've been talking to, shoot, maybe 30 to 50 people. It feels like 30 plus a week, 30 to 40 people a week.
Which, I mean, we always say, like, if you're full time, 30 to 40 appointments a week is kind of
Yeah.
like full-time schedule. So it's just now you're up to speed to the full-time schedule. And look, your numbers are supporting that. Pretty simple stuff.
Yeah, because you're gonna have good conversations. You're gonna have no shows. You're gonna have, just people that you're not gonna be on the phone with for very long, just to keep it simple like that. So you get a mix of good results, bad results, and as long as you just have a lot of appointments, you should do pretty well for yourself, no matter how new or late in the game you've been. As long as
Yeah.
you just the numbers up.
So now last couple weeks, what have we been running lead wise?
Mortgage protection and IUL.
Yep. Yep. Now, IUL, I think, this is something that throughout the year, like we're all going to embrace more and more. We see it more and more inside and outside of FFL. But I mean, being new to the industry, I've seen you in the last couple of weeks. You're just your knowledge base and like how you talk about it has increased. But was that pretty intimidating? And kind of what have you been doing to learn IULs?
Yeah, it was pretty intimidating. I sold a few IULs in the past before really getting involved with the IUL leads, but they were basically just the Mutual Omaha, Index Universal Life Express. Those people I sold to were really just looking for, just a form of life insurance, just to protect their family in the event they pass away.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of different avenues you can take with an IUL. So at that point, I realized I'm not going to sell IULs until I at least learn quite a bit about it. And I heard a few of your calls on Zoom. Just that alone helped me understand how they worked. So like I said, being on Zoom helped. But I went back to YouTube. There's a lot of FFL IUL videos that helped me learn how they really operate. Just picking a few brains from YouTube of different IUL experts. There's a lot on YouTube that go how they actually work the best way to assist a family, because there's different goals. Maybe someone just wants to grow their cash more and they don't care too much about the death benefit right now, because maybe they're 30 or 40 and they're healthy. So just learning how to actually structure an IUL properly is really important. So I had to get myself a little absorbed in it. And for the past few weeks, I've been watching a lot of videos and just learning how they work, because I'm definitely no expert, but I'm getting there. I'm learning how to understand, what their goals are and how to help them out.
So not being an expert, I know you probably don't have these numbers right away, but like in the last 2 weeks, how much like overall total AP do you think you've sold just in IULs?
Just in IULs, probably probably like 35 to 40.
A good bit, a good bit.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, that's
Chunk.
super exciting. That's super exciting. So a couple things on that, right? So first of all is appointments have increased, right? Swings at the bat, opportunities have increased. You were somebody who had already kind of figured out how to help 10 families plus a month. So like when you hit that mark, and especially when you do it consistently, obviously you're somebody who knows how to sell insurance, right? Then it's just a matter of getting more opportunities to talk to somebody.
Mhm.
Now, outside, now you're one of the guinea pigs of LCP. So we've had some tech issues. We're working through those. So minus those days, um, what would you say about your overall couple things? Show rate. Has your show rate been better, worse, no different?
Um, I wouldn't say it's that much different. It's hard to. I'd say it's slightly. it's hard to say. I have a lot more appointments. So I guess you could say slightly worse because when I was hand calling, I wasn't getting many appointments, but I was just giving them the personal touch and, just trying to close them at the spot. Whereas when you have, 20 appointments for a day, you're not going to have all of them show up. But that's okay because a lot more are showing up than what I used to have. Like, because I only would have 5 appointments per day. So if I had 3 or 4 show up, that'd be great. If I have 10 to 12 people show up on a day, I mean, that's a great day alone. So, you know, it's it's been solid.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And then some of the like some of the back end stuff, how, I don't know how much because I'm always pay attention to it all. I just want to see from like your perspective.
Mhm.
So like when somebody no shows or they say I think about it, have you noticed much stuff or they book an appointment but they don't confirm the appointment and some of that back end stuff starts hitting them? Like have you
Yeah.
noticed many people come back to you?
Yeah, that's one thing I've noticed. So when I used to get no-showed, yeah, I would text them, try to remind them that we had an appointment. And at that point, it would just kind of go away. I would just take the L and move on to the next lead. But, when someone no-shows you, you just click the no-show button, they send some text and whole new campaign starts. And yeah, I'll remember names that I got no-showed on, just show up on my calendar for a couple days later or the next day. Yeah, maybe they had something come up and when they're getting texted back pretty, consistently, they'll probably rebook the appointment. And I've talked to a few no-shows. So
Definitely, definitely. So kind of back to IULs because again, I think they're pretty intimidating for a lot of people. What do you say? Where do you start? Some of these are bigger conversations. I mean, just today I know you had got no showed or whatever, but you had a
mhm.
follow up with somebody about an opportunity for a $500,000 annuity, which those are higher level conversations, and especially being new to the industry, like that can be intimidating. So,
Yeah.
um, kind of talk to us about not the top, but like the average IUL conversation. Kind of what are some of the people when you get on the phone? What does that initial conversation sound like?
So the initial conversation, I like to just gauge their knowledge of an IUL, just really find out, what they know about it so far. And most of the time, like 90% of the time, they have no idea about anything about IUL. They just saw something online. They know it can help grow, build some wealth for them, leave a large legacy for the family, but that's about it. So really, I just ask, okay, well, let me break down how it works, right? So in IUL, I compare it to a few things. I compare it one to a 401k or an IRA because that's what most people are used to. Most of them are employed, they're contributing to a 401k and it's growing in the market. Um, I want to let them know that it's similar to that, but there's a lot less risk, right? Because with an IUL, you're contracting yourself with a life insurance company where they're guaranteeing you zero downside for, probably at least 20 years, which is a really good benefit to have because if you have a 401k and it starts dipping during a bad market, uh, it's hard to go to your 401k and look at being down 30% of your retirement money. And a lot of people, when I tell them that, a lot of them are like, oh, you're telling me, I hated looking at my account in 2022. So I just kind of let them know that I give them examples, right? I just say, look, if you have 10,000 in a 401k and 10,000 in IUL, at the end of a bad year, maybe that 401k will have, 8,000, but the IUL will be staying at 10,000. And the next year, when the market's good again, the IUL is going to bounce back up to, or the 401k, sorry, is going to bounce back up to 10K where it was. Meanwhile, the IUL is, maybe at 11K or 12K. It's doing a little better.
Yeah.
So just letting them know that the safety net that an IUL provides, that's definitely where I like to kind of hit home there. But really just educating them about an IUL as much as I can. And guys, you really want to look up how IULs work if you don't know much about it. It's not as complicated as it sounds. I know it's intimidating, but most of these people have no idea what an IUL is. So even if you just watch a few really good videos, you're going to know way more than they do. And it's at least going to pump up the conversation a bit. And if you don't know where to take it from there, you can just tell them, be honest, say that you're going to draft up an illustration for them and report back to them with some good numbers. And then you can contact, someone like Josh or someone that's your upline that's more knowledgeable and they can help you out. I mean, that's what I did with Josh, right? I was asking you about illustrations, had no
Well,
idea what I was saying, what I was doing.
well, yeah, we jumped on the one call with the one that you locked in for the 20K premium, and we did that one together,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
Um, so I'm gonna give everybody 5 points to write down when you're on the call with somebody, and a couple of tips here in just a second. So if you want to get your pens handy, definitely want to take down these 5 points. Very basic, how you can kind of explain an IUL. But talk to us on how different and what that conversation feels like. Like as you talking to an IUL versus, live transfers, other forms of leads that you've talked to. Like we've talked about it quite a bit. Like what that conversation feels like.
It's fun.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. I'm someone that I follow the stock market. Like I know not the ins and outs. I know the basics of the stock market, and it's a kind of a fun thing to talk about, especially when you're explaining to people how they could really improve their financial, well-being years down the road. It's a really good conversation to have. It takes the sales pressure off too, because I mean, really with an IUL, it's not a bill, like a final expense policy. For them, it feels like a bill because they feel like they don't need it until they need it, right? And so an IUL, they know that the more money they put in, the more that will grow down the road. And when you show them the numbers on that, they're like, okay, I want to put in this much amount, and let's get started. So the sales pressure gets kind of taken off. It just is you're just having a good conversation with someone about their future and about what they want to see down the road.
Yeah. So what I would add to this is like, I think back on my, journey here with FFL, and it's like I've tried so many different kinds of lead types. I mean, there's probably not a lead type out there that I haven't called and sold on. But at the same time, the goal is as you move forward, right, that you are, increasing your overall sales, you're increasing your profitability, you're increasing your average ticket, your average sale, you're increasing retention. And, the more and knowledge and the more you can help your clients, it helps you do that. So I remember, starting on final expense, it's simple. And then kind of, moving to other things and getting into mortgage protection and learning about that. And right, you definitely, I mean, we see people that are just crushing it super hard on mortgage protection, but with mortgage protection comes more underwriting, more product availability. So you have to know a little bit more options and strategies on how to help your clients. And if you're willing to learn those things, what I've seen is my average sale go from 800 AP to 1,000 AP to 1,500, then hit an average of like 2K, right? And then we take one more step into these, IUL and annuity conversations, and then you can get some really, really big premiums. And it's interesting that, when you start the conversation and it's like, hey, talking about, investments and I use that word loosely because it is insurance, and I'm going to give you the 5 points here in a second. But talking about saving and growing their money, right? The conversation goes from like, hey, your insurance, your health, etc., to, they're like, well, I have some money over here. I have a lump sum I could put. Right? I got this old IRA. I got this old 401k. What about that? What about my kids? And next thing you know, like money's coming out of different places that if you listen and you're smart to ask good questions, you cannot be an expert, like Austin. He's not quite an expert, but he knows enough to help the client and steer them into, good information, right? So that's also really exciting. And so we've seen, Austin, myself, and others, Dawson, do some really, really big deals that you just normally wouldn't see. So a couple things here is, here's the 5 points of an IUL. This is super simple stuff. Number your page 1 through 5. And so when we're on the phone, especially when somebody's like, well, what is an IUL? Okay. This is kind of what I say. It's this little spiel, and I think this will end up on some kind of PDF thing and make it available to everybody. But I said, well, here's the five things. If I was talking to you, Austin, here's the five things of what an IUL is. Number one, it is life insurance. Okay, it is an insurance policy, so there is a death benefit. Okay, so you pass away, your family's going to get a tax-free check. So that's number one, is death benefit. Number two, there's a living benefit. All right. So just like there's a benefit of insurance if you die, what if you get sick, injured, disabled, and live, right? You have a critical illness, a chronic illness, or a terminal illness. You can use that benefit money to pay for things while you're living. So you have a death benefit and a living benefit. That's your two parts of the insurance. Now, the rest of them focus on the money. All right. Number three is cash accumulation, right? Obviously, you're paying money into a policy and you're hoping to grow that money. And so it is IUL stands for Indexed Universal Life. That word index, all that means, it is not invested directly in the stock market. It is not. However, that index, it follows the stock market. If the stock market goes up, like it did from 2019 through 2021, you can participate in the highs, and the interest rate that you'll get on your money in many IUL policies in those years did 10, 12% plus interest on your money. That's fantastic. But in 2022, when the market went down nearly 20%, my IRA went down 20%. So if you had 100 in an account, now you have 80. That's not too great. In an IUL, you're guaranteed not to lose money. So you wouldn't have made any money that year. In some policies, maybe 0, maybe 1%, but you certainly wouldn't have lost any money. So cash accumulation. Number four, it grows tax deferred. So you don't got to worry about that today. And number five, you have access to it tax-free. So when you get ready, you can access it tax-free versus a lot of other accounts that you could put money in, like 401ks and traditional IRAs. If you go to take money out, not only are you going to pay taxes, but if you're not 59 and a half or younger, you're going to pay a 10% penalty. So that's great as well. Okay. And usually you go through those five things and be like, oh man, that is really cool. And you can say those things, and that's exactly my spiel. I say it every time, just like that, a little slower. And they're like, that makes sense. Okay. So the five things, and that all that does is get them to open up, go, okay, I understand this. I want to talk about this, and I'm willing to kind of share my information. Not to mention is persistency and profitability, right? At the end of the day, the client that stays on the books longer is going to pay you longer. And I think the company average that they've been seeing on IULs is 90+%, that right around that 90% range. And you got to think about it. If somebody says to you, hey, I want to grow my money and I want to set aside $500 a month, that's a lot different than an insurance policy. They go, how much does it cost? 200. And you can tell on the phone, they go, okay, let's do it. Right. What that translates to, it's probably a little bit more than I can afford, but I want the insurance. So I'll figure it out. Versus them telling you, here is what I can do. Here's what I can set aside every single month. And once they start making those deposits, do you think that they want to lose what they've gained in that? Absolutely not. So that's very exciting. These leads, whether it be the social media mortgage protection, I'll kind of go through that real quick. So sometimes I've heard a couple people are like, well, where do you get them? It's the ILC. So both the mortgage protection and the IULs, we've been running with success a lot. I've been running them for the mortgage protection ones for, I don't know, 6 months or so. So when you go on the ILC, you'll see the whole heat map there. There's a drop-down menu for life leads or health leads. You obviously click life. And under that is a drop-down menu. Are they direct mail? Are they internet? There's something called social media, right? You can click on social media and then they'll all pop up. You click on your state. The mortgage protection ones says mortgage protection. There's like diamond and all these different things. And it just has the age, right? Are they brand new? Are they older? What have you? IUL, the same. I was on a call just today with Andrew Taylor. There was another guy on the call that he had actually bought in all of FFL. He had purchased the most IUL leads out of anybody, right? So if anybody knows how these work, this is this guy, right? And he'd hit Hall of Fame. So well over that. And he said his favorite kind of lead was the older IUL leads. He's like, I love it because when I call, they know exactly what I'm talking about. There's no this like, oh, I didn't do that. I don't know what you're talking about. And he actually sold a 17K target premium policy off of like a 6-month-old IUL lead. So if you're like kind of nervous about it, right? Start with the older ones, have some basic conversations, ask good questions. If you need some help, reach out to one of us. We're happy to step in and help about it. Have the conversations or maybe with an illustration or what have you, make sure they're structured properly, because that's the other thing. If they're not structured properly, you can mess people up, and we're not in the business of doing that. We're in the business of helping people. So with that said, Jamie, I'm going to turn it back to you. Anything that we missed, any questions that, you had that I didn't think to ask?
No, I mean, I think you guys did a great job. I think the biggest thing is just understanding that the best place to start is just to start sprinkling them in. I mean, if you are on a good trajectory right now of, doing your production off your internet leads, you've got your mortgage protection leads, sprinkle in a few IUL leads. Just see what happens. I mean, I would recommend starting with the older leads. And again, like, I think the biggest thing I took away from this conversation is like just the entire psychology of the conversation. You call up an internet lead and you go through all boot camp, like you learn about the psychology of the sale. And it's like this more of like a cold conversation. It's like, Josh, hey, yeah, this is Jamie. I'm just getting back with you. You filled out this thing. Like, it's just like, it's not like very exciting. And we're told to not bring a lot of emotion to it because like you have to control the sale. You got to control the sale with these people who are kind of crazy. Love them anyways, but like we deal with some crazy, amazing people. But when you're having these IUL conversations, they're like, I don't know, there's not as much sales pressure and they're not as competitive of a lead. You do internet, if you can dial internet leads and you can sell insurance and internet leads, you can sell any lead on the planet. IUL leads, you are going to book appointments in about 3 seconds flat and be like, wow, that was easy. The hard part about IULs is learning how to sell IULs. It's not booking appointments. Like booking appointments is the easiest part because you're calling these people who, one of the cool things about the ILC is if somebody has been sold, so Austin goes and sells that big, $1,000 a month premium, that lead gets removed from the system. So, Josh isn't buying that lead 2 months later and then trying to call him up. I'm like, I already got it taken care of. Every single person who gets sold a policy anywhere under the FFL or integrity umbrella gets removed from the system. They don't get put in there as old leads, which is great. So the people that you're talking to, unless they talk to somebody else from some alternative, source where they filled out another form somewhere else, they haven't gotten a policy and they filled it out for a reason. And most of the time it's because they had a little bit of extra money that they wanted to put towards their retirement. So it's just like a little bit more of a fun conversation. We're talking about budget. It's like, hey, Josh, what do you want to spend? And he's like, oh, instead of, hey, here's what the insurance costs. And they're like, is it worth it? You're like, how much do you want to save per month? How much do you want to, loosely invest, per month? And it's a different conversation because now you start having people who say, well, I think $220 a month for $40,000 in life insurance, I don't think that's worth it. Versus they go, well, I could invest $1,000 a month, even if the way you structure the policy is less life insurance than the $220 a month policy, they see more value because their money's growing. So these conversations, they're just fun. So I just encourage you guys to have them. For anybody who's coming to convention, there's going to be just a huge emphasis on it. We're going to be talking about it more. We've built out countless campaigns inside of Lead Champ on the IUL side. Persistency is a big deal. 90% persistency versus 70% persistency. I love mortgage protection. That's what I do. That's my bread and butter. 99% of my sales are mortgage protection. But sprinkling in some of these IUL leads to increase my persistency, that's where, I'm going to start. And then obviously there's going to be some of y'all who want to go all in on IUL leads. Start with the old ones, get good at the conversation, and then start investing in the new ones. They're a little bit more of an expensive lead, $30, $35 lead. But also the answer rate's a little bit higher. And it's a little bit of a longer sale as well. Some of these policies might be fully underwritten. They're not all going to be simplified issue. If we can simplify issue, we're going to choose that every time. But yeah, at the end of the day, I think the last thing I'll say is that these are also great policies for friends and family. At the end of the day, like, I think it's no secret when you start to learn about IULs, if you set them up properly, your commission will be less than the annual premium. Okay. So Josh, give me an example real quick, because I don't know the numbers as well as you do. But if I, had somebody spend, $1,000 a month on a policy and I structured it, to where I make the most money versus where they make the most money, what does that difference in commission look like?
Oh gosh. So, I mean, most of us are used to like the IULE. right? The moo, and we're selling it because, you know, they just want cheap insurance, mortgage protection, final expense. And so if we go and sell, let's just say, you know, we sold $1,000 a month policy for $12,000 a year, like you're going to get almost, I mean, you know, minus advance caps and stuff, you're going to get pretty much all of that paid to you. Now, what that does to the client is
Emphasizing more life insurance, not, you know, less cash
right,
growth.
more life insurance, less cash growth. So that client, when they look at their ledger, they're not going to see any cash value for years, right? And so if they come to you and go, I want an IUL for retirement or whatever, and you set them up that policy, they're going to be extremely angry when they get their statement. Now, on the other side of that, if you set up correctly and you maximize for cash value, you minimize for insurance, and this is where you get into tools like WinFlex and the carrier tools to go in and structure and design these policies. So that's a part of it you learn, and you want to take the boot camp, and we're here to help. But we see that same policy, depending on age, it might be, you know, on a $12,000 policy, it might be a 2,500 or $3,000 target premium, and that's what we get paid on. Your commission is going to be based on that 2,500 or $3,000, not the 12, right? And so if you see, anytime you see an IUL that's like even numbers in the chat, like that's AP, that's not target premium.
Yeah.
Right.
100%. So at the end of the day, just understand that like even a properly structured IUL, you know, the average target premium is going to be higher than the average final expense policy, you know. So these are bigger policies, the commissions are a little bit less, but at the end of the day, like these are the types of policies that like if you have a friends and family that are in good health, like these are the kinds of policies that like I would want somebody to sell me. Like this is the type of policy that I would like get excited about telling my friends and family. You know, when my background's in network marketing, you know, so I made a list and, you know, burnt it a million times on a handful of different products. And I didn't want to call any of my friends and family to ask them if they had life insurance at all. So what did I do? I went to work and I bought leads. The conversation around IUL, especially with so many of my friends being self-employed, it's like an exciting conversation that I want to have. I almost feel like I know something they don't know. Like I know some really cool secret about what other entrepreneurs are doing and what other people, not just entrepreneurs, but what people are doing to create tax-free retirement. Like I feel like I've got one of those TikTok hacks, you know, that none of my friends and family know about, and I can help them with that, which is such a cool thing. So I feel like for me, at least from like a psychological perspective, I feel more comfortable talking to friends and family about IULs, obviously, if they can qualify. And the last thing I'll say is, I mean, Josh, you've probably seen it more than anybody, is when you have these IUL conversations, you find more money for annuity conversations than you do with final expense and mortgage protection, I'm assuming.
Oh yeah, I mean, we've just in the last 2 weeks, I mean, we've uncovered multiple annuity opportunities, and you know, they've not all gone through. They're in process. They're in different stages of the sales process. But you know, just to have somebody go, yeah, I got some money here. What can you do with it? That just wasn't something that was happening on a regular basis in, you know, certainly final expense and mortgage protection. Now, granted, for the longest time, we weren't asking the golden question like we were supposed to. But even with asking it every single time, you know, I think I heard some numbers once upon a time. If you ask it 10 times, you might find 2 opportunities. I would say that's about true. But on IUL, it's maybe half the time or even 75% of the time. There's something else somewhere that they're like, oh, can I use this other money? And they're asking you versus going, hey, do you have anything else that lacks like insurance? You know, will you show it to me? Yes, no, you know, whatever. So that's exciting.
Well, I mean, it's typically people who know how to save money that want to save more money. You know, I think that's like the easiest way to put it. It's typically people who are pretty decent with their money that are able to have an extra grand or two left over or 500 bucks left over, as opposed to the person who's like, yeah, I really care about my wife, but 220, that sounds like a lot, versus the person who's like, well, I already have retirement accounts. I'm just looking to save. I'm trying to save money on taxes because I'm already doing this. This is already a goal of mine. So it's like if you take someone who's already doing it, and then we just guide them in how they can do it with insurance. Awesome. Well, guys, the future of what is coming here in 2024 is a lot of simple retirement solutions. A lot of annuities, a lot of IULs, of course, more social media mortgage protection, but the future is automation and systems. And we're hoping that we can share that with you guys here very, very soon. So appreciate everybody. Hope everyone has an amazing night. For those of you that I will see in Dallas, I'm excited to see you. If you have not registered on the Living Hope meetup, please go ahead and do that. And we will see y'all in Dallas. And otherwise, oh man, I think we'll see some of y'all on Live Dallas tomorrow, but otherwise not until next week. Everyone have an amazing day and we'll talk soon. See you guys.